Hi, this is the first video in a series where I'm going to be renovating my newly acquired 1930s house. In this video, I'm going to be opening up this doorway and installing this door. Along the bottom, you'll see a progress bar, which means you can skip to various parts of the video. The different sections are me opening up the doorway, fitting the lining, hanging the door, and installing the handle. So now let's go back in time to when there wasn't a door here. I'm upstairs in the hallway today and I'm going to be reopening this doorway that was previously blocked up by a former owner. I'm not sure which owner it was. There's a bedroom through here. I'll show you on a plan. And basically it's got an archway going into that bedroom from another bedroom that's made it like a bedroom dressing room. We're going to be converting it back to 2 bedrooms, so I need to reopen up this doorway. The doorway's at the end of this hall. This is actually an extension. We've got our kids' room in there at the moment. It's a bit of a mess, we've just moved in. And the previous owner, as I said, has blocked this up. When I've stripped off the wallpaper, quite a lot of the plaster has come away, and it's actually where there's been a skim coat of plaster applied over the old door frame. So there's a former external wall here, the door frame has been put in here, and this is a stud wall. So the first thing I'm going to do is make a reasonable sized hole in the plasterboard here, just so I can see what's inside it and work out how exactly I'm going to do it. But it's helped me quite a lot that this door frame is already here. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to use it. I rather foolishly decided to cut the hole with my Bosch mini angle grinder. It's a great bit of kit and has a carbide disc in it, but made a complete mess. So the dust has settled now. Might not have been the most sensible tool to use. I've still got the carpet down, although we are getting rid of it, and it did chuck up an awful lot of dust. I probably should have used my multi-tool, but we live and learn. So I've got quite a big hole. Looks like I've just missed a stud actually, which was quite handy. I've actually caught the stud a bit, but that little tool goes for anything. And the other side, I've just got the plasterboard from the other wall. So this stud work is actually really thin, which is quite interesting. So I'm going to rip out the rest of it. I'm not going to use that little cutter. I'm going to just basically pull away all the plasterboard with a bit of brute force, and take a look at the doorway. The door lining doesn't look in too bad shape. I'm just hoping that these enormous nails that they've used haven't wrecked it too much. It's got a bit of damage up the top. I've now removed all the stud work and the plasterboard on the other side, and I was right, there is an old door lining or door frame in there. It's very, very thin. It's only about 67 millimeters thick, which is just under 3 inches, and it's not in the best of condition. You can see where they had the 4-inch nails going through and they've come out. It's just wrecked it really. So I'm going to have to take the lining out and put a new one in. I start by sawing through each side of the lining. I do it at a slight angle because it means it will be easier when I take the crowbar to it. Some of the 4-inch nails proved to be quite tricky, but with a bit of persuasion they came away. Once the lining was removed, it revealed that there was a lot of bonding coat in between the old lining and the brickwork. It also made quite a mess. I was actually quite worried that when I was screwing the frame in, the bonding coat would fall away even more, and I proved to be right. It was potentially going to make it quite difficult to affix the lining, but where there was stud work it would be okay. The thickness of the lining wasn't very wide, it was only 67mm, so I had to cut down the new piece on my table saw. I'm using a solid door with an oak veneer around it, and to make sure the frame was the exact fit for the door, I put packers around it and set the frame around it. I then secured the top to the sides by putting 2 screws through each end. It gave it a nice firm grip. To stop the lining moving out of shape while I installed it, I put some braces across the bottom and diagonally to stop it getting out of alignment. I'm actually using the door jambs for the braces because I was going to discard them anyway. I then moved the lining into position. It was quite a good fit, but there was a little bit of space around some of the sides. And then secured using 100mm screws into the existing stud work. I piloted them first. It turned out to be quite a good day to be working inside, although I did have a break to take the kids on their first sledging trip. We don't seem to get snow as often anymore in the UK. I think I'm more excited than the kids when it does come down. To ensure the lining was plumb, I used packers and my spirit level. I did make quite a big mistake at one point though, where I pre-drilled all the holes but didn't factor in how thin the stud work was. It's only 38mm, so some of the holes missed the stud. I ended up putting a screw straight through the middle in some places. I'm a bit worried about it twisting, but we'll have to wait and see how it goes. The side of the lining where I was screwing into brickwork was even worse, as I feared most of the bonding fell out when I was using the hammer drill, and I actually lost some bricks as well at the bottom. This resulted in a gap of between 12 and 26mm, so about half an inch to an inch. So I decided to secure the frame with what are basically concrete screws. They're 100mm or 4 inches long and grip really tightly and stop the frame by moving them side to side and in and out. Where the bricks had come out, I decided to repair them and fill them back in with some mortar. Unfortunately, my father-in-law's a plasterer, so I was able to call on his services to put some more bonding across where it had all come out. So I'm just filling the brickwork with some mortar. As I said, it's not structural, so it can be patched up as long as it's holding the bricks in place. And now the cavalry's arrived. This is my father-in-law, Martin. He's filling the mess I've made with bonding, and then the plan was to then go over it with easy fill once the bonding had set. As you can see, his plastering skills are far better than my bricklaying skills. The bonding repair worked really well and was nice and level with the new lining. It just needed a bit of touching up with some easy fill that he did for me on another day. It's been about 5 years since I've hung a door, so I took quite a lot of care setting the hinges. I measured 6 inches down from the top and 9 inches up from the bottom, marked out where I wanted the hinges. Then I cut across the shoulders with a very sharp Stanley knife, try saying that quickly, and then used my chisel to give myself a much more pronounced line for the router to go up to. Using the router, I set the right depth of the hinge and also the width, and then cleared it up with my chisels to make sure the edge was nice. The first hinge was probably a little bit baggy, but it was fine. The second one was much better. I guess practice makes perfect. To make sure the dimensions between hinges matched between the door and the lining, I used one of the old Jambs to mark the positioning, and then put a spacer in the top for the gap that I wanted at the top of the door, and transposed the dimensions onto the lining. I then traced around the hinge, marked out the shoulders with the chisel, and then cut out the hinge shape with the router set at the same depth. Cleared it up again with the chisel, and this time it was a much better fit. As you can see, it just holds it nice and firmly. I'm using this centering bit to set the pilot holes for the hinges. They're fantastic and they might make life so much easier. I'll put a link in the description. As you can probably tell, I like my gadgets, so I use these airbags to set the height of the door. It was at this point I'd wished I'd bought a hollow door. This one weighs 40 kilos or just under 90 pounds, so it wasn't particularly easy to manoeuvre around. With the door set on the airbags, I can just pilot and screw the hinges into the lining. For aligning the handle, I'm using a jig by Jig Tech. You drill through either side and then drill a hole for the latch as well. It comes with a little device for marking where the latch is going to enter the door lining. You make sure that the door is flush with the lining and then push the little peg out, and it leaves an imprint on the inside of the lining at the exact spot where you need to put the hole for the latch recess. I'm using a spade bit to drill out the recess in the lining. It's worth checking to make sure you've got the right depth. You don't really want to go too far in and through. The catch then goes over the top, and I've marked and chiselled it out to make sure it sits nice and flush. Fitting the latch itself is quite straightforward. There's a spacer that goes in the hole and it just pushes in. There's a little latch tapper that you can use to knock it in to save damaging the latch. The handle then slides in and uses pins to locate itself. The other side then slides over the top, and there's two screws, top and bottom, to tighten up to secure it together. It fits quite well. The jig's quite effective for lining everything up, and the latch aligns with the catch in the lining very nicely. I then fitted the door jambs, which had to be thinner because of the width of the lining, and plugged the holes. There were actually 18 holes I had to plug. These will be filled and sanded down. The hallway is quite a bit different with a doorway at the bottom, and the door opens and shuts really nicely. I'm pleased with how it's come out. I've still got to fit the skirting and architrave around it and do some more filling and sanding on the wall. Overall, it's nice having a door into the bedroom. It'll be even better once I've blocked up the hole through to the other room. That's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe, and hopefully see you again soon.